Hey guys, I've been installing a lot of rolling release distros to try out in VirtualBox here recently, and I came across one yesterday that I had never heard of, and I thought it was really interesting sounding. So I wanted to go ahead and try it out for the first time, run through the installer, do a first impression install and review video of it. And that Linux distribution is called Feren, or Feren OS. Now, let me pull up the distro watch page. This is actually how I came across Feren. I was just glancing at the distro watch page hit rankings, doing some research for one of my videos, and I noticed number 34 on the list, which is a pretty decent ranking on DistroWatch. Number 34 was Feren. I've never heard of Feren. I mean, it's like it came out of nowhere. So I clicked on it to see what it was about. And Feren is based on Linux Mint, which is based on Ubuntu, which is based on Debian. So it's got that kind of heritage. So Feren OS is a desktop Linux distribution based on Linux Mint's main edition. The Feren OS distribution ships with the Cinnamon desktop environment and includes the Wine capability layer for running Windows applications. The distro also ships with WPS productivity software, which is mostly compatible with Microsoft Office and the Vivaldi web browser. So there's a little bit about some of the software that comes installed by default. But when you go to the Feren OS webpage, which is at ferenos.weebly.com, so it's not even a proper domain, so it's a small operation, probably really new. Like I said, I'd never heard of it. The blurb at the top of the page says, Feren OS is a free replacement for Windows and Mac OS with the best that the Linux community can offer in customization, applications, and much more in one package. Feren OS is also a one-of-a-kind Linux distribution for its customization and familiarity, as well as being one of the very few rolling release distros that takes the stable path over the bleeding edge. It's designed to be faster, more powerful, more secure. So, a rolling release distro that's based off of Linux Mint, that's a little strange. Now, Linux Mint's based on Ubuntu, which you can kind of do some pseudo rolling with Ubuntu. If you're constantly on the development release, you're essentially rolling along with Ubuntu. It's not very stable. I have played around in some of the alphas and betas, doing bug reports for Ubuntu. I would not want to live in development release Ubuntu on my main machine. You can also do rolling release with Debian, doing their unstable branch. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with Mint to do this pseudo rolling release, but they mention it is a pseudo rolling release. It's not a true rolling release like you would get with something like Gentoo or Arch, where something comes out the next day, bam, it's in the package manager, it's ready to go. It's not going to be quite that fast, but it's not going to be one of these every 6 months you have to do a major system upgrade. Your system is always up to date. So I'm actually looking forward to this one. Rolling release distro based on Linux Mint. Sounds interesting. So let's get started. Okay, I've downloaded the ISO, and I'm going to go ahead and install Feren OS inside a virtual machine, in this case VirtualBox. Let's wait for the install media to load here. I am going to run through the installer, see what it's all about. Like I said, I've never even heard of Feren OS, but I expect the installer to be very familiar if you've ever installed Linux Mint or ever installed Ubuntu. It's a very simple graphical installer that takes about 3 clicks to get through, and you're done. Alright, and it is loaded up. Looks like it took us directly into a live environment, and got this little warning at the top. Running in software rendering mode, something about the graphics, probably running this in VirtualBox. It's not going to be the greatest experience as far as graphical goodness, but we're going to ignore that for now. Anyway, in the middle of the screen we have a welcome screen. which I click on this. We have introduction, features, getting started, installation help, online store, community, get involved, donate. Very similar to what you see when you install something like Linux Mint or a lot of these other user-friendly distros. You get a little welcome screen with some buttons and some links that take you to places where you can get information or support if you need it. I'm going to go ahead and click the Install Now button in the middle of this little greeter. Alright, and it looks like the first thing is language settings. It has chosen English for me. That's correct. Preparing to install Feren OS. Install third-party software for graphics. Yeah, I need to do that. Without Flash and some, codecs and stuff, we're not going to be able to do much as far as audio and video. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Alright, it took a minute for it to install that third-party software. Then it gets to the next slide here, installation type. Basically what we want to do with the disk, with the partitioning. Inside VirtualBox, I'm just going to give Feren OS the entire 15 gig hard drive that I created inside this virtual machine. So I'm going to choose the first option, erase disk and install Feren OS. Alright, it's going to review what it's going to do with the partitioning. It's going to create a swap, and then the main partition, the extended 4 partition. Yeah, that's fine. Continue. Just going to let it do its thing here. Alright. Next thing, time zone. It has correctly chosen the central time zone in the United States. So good job on this, Feren OS. Continue. Keyboard layout, English US is correct, but we can test it out if we want to. Just to make sure the keyboard is functioning correctly. It is. So. Now we need to create our user. So for username, I'm just going to go with Feren OS, just to keep things simple. I'm going to give it a very weak password. I'm going to not tick login automatically. I don't like logging in automatically. I want it to ask me a password every time I log in. So, continue. And that should be all we have to do. The installer should start now. It should run, a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to pause the recording until the installation is complete. Okay guys, the installer has finished, and now we must reboot the machine, as we always do. After running an installer, you have to restart the machine to complete the install. And we wait for it to reboot. Alright. And I guess this is our login greeter. I'm not sure why there is no wallpaper or background to it, but it looks like this is the Light DM login manager. Strange that it's just a plain black background. I don't know if that's some kind of error or bug. But let's go ahead and live in to what should be the Cinnamon desktop environment. Okay. And by default, they do have a welcome screen that's going to load up. We might actually read through some of this since I don't know really anything about Feren OS. Like I said, I just heard about it for the first time last night. I was looking around on Distro Watch and came across it, and I just thought it sounded really cool, being Linux Mint, rolling release, post installation. I like that they've done this. We can go ahead and run our updates. And go ahead and install drivers. So they got a lot of stuff on this greeter that you would need to do after a fresh install like I just did. I'm not going to run through updates for this video because it's going to take a little while, and I don't want to waste time for purposes of this video. So I'm going to actually just close this little greeter, and let's look around and see what programs they have installed on Feren OS, because reading their webpage, it sounded like they make some pretty interesting choices for default apps. So click on this menu down here, and this is not a traditional Cinnamon kind of menu. I'm actually not sure where to go here. All apps. Yeah, let me click that and see what we get. Okay, that's a more traditional menu here. Under accessories, we have Archive Manager, Calculator, Character Map, Clocks, a disk utility, Files, which I believe is going to be the GNOME File Manager. Yeah, it is. So you can tell by the look of it that this is the GNOME. Nautilus File Manager is its proper name. GNOME has renamed it to just Files recently. Back to accessories, we also have a font viewer, maps. That's going to be a GNOME map utility. Password and keys, screen reader, screenshot utility, search for files, text editor. Let's see what text editor they're using. I'm assuming it's probably gedit. No, it is Notepad, which is a small and lightweight text editor. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, Notepad is a pretty neat little text editor. So that's a cool choice there. It's not wanting to close though. Right click here on the desktop. It looks like I can open a terminal, which I might actually need to do here to kill Notepad. So, alright guys. First bug in our freshly installed Feren OS. Don't open the text editor, because for some reason it won't close when you click the close button. Alright, continuing on with the apps that are installed. Under games, we have Steam installed. That's great. That's fantastic. Graphics, we have our document viewer for viewing PDFs. Krita, which is digital painting. Photos, and Simple Scan, which is a scanning utility. Under Internet, we have Mail, which, let's see what mail client this is. Well, we actually have to give it some information to get past this, but it's Pantheon Mail. Let's go back to Internet, see what else they're using. A remote desktop app. And we got a Steam Transmission, which is a BitTorrent client. Vivaldi is our web browser. Now that's an interesting choice, Vivaldi. Vivaldi is a web browser that just been around a couple of years. The guys, I think, that used to do the Opera web browser, some of the original guys that started that, went off and started Vivaldi, which has a lot of really interesting features. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over Vivaldi, but if you've never checked out the Vivaldi web browser, you should. It's got a lot of really cool things going on with it. Alright. And that was it for Internet. Office, we have the entire LibreOffice suite. So, good job on that. Sound and video, we have Cheese, which is a webcam app. Rhythmbox, which is a fantastic audio player. And VLC, which is also a great media player. You can do audio on it, but it's mainly for video. Administration. And this has a lot of programs that the average Linux user really won't play around in much, like Dconf Editor, Disk Usage Analyzer, Drive Manager, Power Stats, Printer, configuring printers, the Synaptic Package Manager, which you don't see on too many distros anymore. I've mentioned that in a couple of my videos, that a lot of these other newer graphical add remove software programs, a lot of them mimic the old Synaptic Package Manager in look and feel, but hardly anybody actually installs Synaptic anymore by default on their system. But Feren does include the Synaptic Package Manager, which is cool. I really like the Synaptic Package Manager. I think it's a great application. Oh, excuse me. Back to the menu. And that's basically it for administration. We've got a couple of different terminal emulators we can choose. Under preferences, this would be where you go to configure your desktop. You have accessibility for those with disabilities. account details, applets, which I'm assuming would be something like that clock that's running over here behind this annoying warning about running in software rendering mode. I need to try to get rid of that. Also in preferences, you have color, date and time, desklets, desktop sharing, disk utility again, display, effects, extensions, firewall, yada yada yada, power management, screensaver, themes. Let's see what kind of themes we have. Okay, if you've ever played around in Cinnamon, the themes app is the standard one you would see in something like Linux Mint or Antergos when it's running in Cinnamon. You have, the window borders here that you could change. I click this, it gives me, some options on what I could possibly change it to. Icons. Let's see what icons they have. They don't have much installed by default. Probably the best set of icons amongst this group is the Breeze set of icons. We can play around with the controls, desktop. Let's see, desktop themes. I'm just going to leave it as the default. I kind of like this transparent bar at the bottom, so yeah, I'm just going to leave all that. I'm not going to play around with the themes too much. I just wanted to get this installed, get a quick review. Let me launch a few programs just to make sure everything is working, because I'm a little concerned after Notepad opened but did not want to close on me. So let's play around a bit just to make sure everything is kind of functioning correctly. So I'm going to open up the file manager. I'm going to open up their little software center here. I'm going to go back in the menu. I'm going to open up VLC. Let's see what else we could open up. I'll go back to the All Apps menu, and under Sound and Video, let me open up Rhythm Box. That's kind of a heavyweight kind of program, but it's a great audio player. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the program that gave me problems earlier, which is that Notepad text editor. And let's just make sure that they all open correctly and close correctly. Let me first check Notepad. When I clicked the X earlier, it crashed. It just froze. I had to basically pull up a terminal to kill the program. This time it closes correctly, so no big deal. VLC closes, the software center closes, Rhythm Box closes correctly, the file manager closes, so everything looks like it's working correctly now. That may have just been a one-time program crash. That can happen with any distro, with any program. I won't hold that against Feren OS. We'll see if I continue to have such problems, but again, that might have just been a one-off kind of thing. So what am I going to do with Feren OS? Well, I'm going to do the same thing with Feren OS that I'm doing with all these other rolling release distros I've installed recently. I've installed several Arch-based distros that are rolling release model. I've installed some Gentoo based distros, some Debian Unstable based distros. I recently installed OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. All of them are rolling release models. All of them are true rolling release models, meaning they are the bleeding edge. And I'll be honest, I expect to have problems with most or all of those distros because how bleeding edge they are. You're always getting the latest packages as soon as they're available. Things are going to break. When I run an Arch-based Linux distro, if it's following Arch's release model, like most of those Arch-based distros I've installed are. Manjaro is an exception. They hold things back, I think, for like a week or so. So, Manjaro I have a little more hopes for as far as breakages, but the rest of them, I expect to have some bumps in the road. Same thing with anything Gentoo based. I expect it to break on me. I just do. I'm going to be honest. Debian Unstable, I expect it to be a complete train wreck for me. I'm going to have some issues. OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, I'm not that familiar with it, but it is a true rolling release model. I kind of expect breakages with it. Feren OS is different. This is a pseudo rolling release, meaning it's not the bleeding edge. It's not the latest packages just as soon as they come out. There's a little bit of delay. So this one I have much higher hopes for. If I have a major breakage that I have to fix in something that is Gentoo or Gentoo based, You know, I'm not going to just completely rail against it and talk trash about it. But Feren OS, you're based on Mint. You're not doing a true rolling release. You're doing a pseudo rolling release. So if I have major system breakages, if I boot up one day and I'm having kernel panics or anything like that, then I'm going to be extremely disappointed with you, and I'm going to give you a complete fail if that happens. But I'm not expecting it. I expect this to work out. So I'm looking forward to using Feren OS, running it. I'm going to keep it installed in this virtual machine for a few months, keep it up to date. I'll keep you guys informed. Thanks, guys.